Now in this video I'm going to give you a breakdown of what goes through a fighter's head during the course of a fight in a professional fight night. Now this is my fight against Lewis Isaacs and it was a really tough one. So hopefully from this video you get a little bit of an insight as to what it's like when you are a professional boxer, the kind of stuff that goes through your head and why I'm doing certain things in the moments I'm doing them from a pro boxer's point of view. So it's going to be quite casual and I'm going to start off with the ring walk. So now I'm just waiting for my ring music to kick in and I'm with my coaches Adam Martin, Mick Guilfoyle and a former pro in Danny Connor. Now you can see from my face I'm focused but I'm also nervous here. Right here I'm having a little go at the person that was telling me when to walk because he made me miss my cue for when the song dropped. In this instance I walked out to Can't Stop by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which was inspired by Vladimir Klitschko because I met him and had a little chat about boxing with him. But personally the ring walk is a weird experience. The bit before you start walking is the weirdest just because you're standing there and in this instance everyone's looking at you. Once you get walking it might seem a bit weird but the thought that always goes through my head is don't trip over. As a professional boxer, you spend most of your time in the boxing ring, so you just want to get there where you feel comfortable. Walking to the ring when everyone's looking at you almost feels a little bit unnatural, so I get there as quick as I can, and once you step through those ropes, there's no turning back and your game face is on. Next, the MC will introduce you, but I'm going to skip that part to when the referee officiates the rules. Now you step to the middle of the ring and get face to face with your opponent for the first time when you're both hyped up and ready to fight. We all know the rules anyway, and sometimes the ref will come to your changing room before the fight and remind you. Some people will try and stare you out, but that's never really bothered me. Personally, I feel like we're here now, we're going to fight, so what's the point in staring, let's just crack on. I'll remain focused and keep myself loose, then step back to the ring. Adam gives me my final instructions, and then I'm just eagerly awaiting the first bell. Now against Isaacs, I'd known him for over a decade and he was a knockout artist in the amateurs and was very strong. So basically going into this fight, the plan was don't get caught with anything early and he landed this beautiful jab straight away. I'd felt the power of his hands and early on I wasn't eager to take another shot. So I kept him at the end of my long jab, but then an opportunity opened up and I just couldn't help but go for it and walked straight into this heavy left hook. Now I was able to firm it, but because of his heavy hands in the early start, this one hurt and for about 30 to 40 seconds I was seeing stars. My eye started to bruise pretty quickly. I made my mistake and now I had to learn from it. So it was just keeping him on my jab and not getting over eager again. I had a whole 8 rounds to get to him, so it was a case of keeping my poker face but loosening up, keeping him on the end of my jab, and when the opportunity arose, carefully calculate the right hand. So now I've evened up the score and we've both landed on each other and I know he can take a shot as well. I know he's not really hurt, so when I throw my jab, I have defence in mind too. Now we were only 40 seconds into what would turn out to be a long and hard fight. I was still seeing stars from the left hook, so I made a conscious effort here to just relax and go for a little bit of a walk. Being able to make these constant adjustments in the ring is key. So here I was just keeping my feet out of range and keeping him on the long jab, because when he got in close he would throw massive haymakers. So when this one was thrown I was like shit, because I knew he was throwing with mean intentions. I was really glad this one didn't land, and now it's just a case of tying him up and getting all of that space to escape and re-establish my jab at long range. Now skipping to the end of the first, which had been a pretty even round but I was slightly winning. He finishes with a barrage and I finished strong. The body clock that you establish as a fighter was telling me that I was coming to the end of the round and I wanted to land something impactful. So I goaded him into throwing a jab and land a counter right hand clean, which cements the round for me. Now I'm going to skip a few rounds and take it to the fourth. Now this is something that still baffles me. I had no idea what he was doing there and it completely took my attention elsewhere. But I only did this because I was out of range and knew I wasn't in danger. Now the fight had played out over a few rounds and it had been pretty intense so far, but I was warming into it. Now when he was up close, I knew he would work, so it was always a case of finishing stronger and not letting the bully me. My strength in this fight was on my toes and moving on the outside, but I knew my strength inside was underestimated and it was inevitable that he was going to get close because that was his way of beating me. So when we were up close and engaging, I always made sure I hit him as hard as I could and finished off every exchange. When I was throwing the jabs, I was throwing them with good timing but also with spite, doing stuff like holding his head and hitting him and doing my best to use his aggression against him and leading him onto shots. When I had him hurt, I made sure to put him in the vulnerable position against the ropes and tie him up. Eventually the ref will break and give me that space to re-establish my jab. Now that was typically how the course of the fight played out. He would try and get up close and I'd try and keep him at distance. At times, we'd have exchanges and one of us would come out on top up close, or I'd pick him off from the outside. Now to his credit, he was extremely tough and relentless, so I'd have to use tricks like using my shoulders to make shots miss like this, and just making sure I was never in a vulnerable position on the ropes and keeping my head off the centre line. Now you go through different stages during a fight, and at times, everything just completely flows and feels natural and effortless, and this little part in round 5 was one of those moments. Now in this instance here, everything was just working. Trust me, it's not always like this and you will have to overcome adversity. but I just found my distance and range was perfect, my feet were getting in and out, and everything I was landing was working. It was a really strange feeling, but I genuinely felt like I was just floating in the ring and completely at ease. Defensively, everything I wanted to do was working, and this probably lasted for about 30 to 40 seconds. Now the 5th round was a good round for me, and I was starting to establish a lead in this fight, but he was relentless, strong, and every time he hit, he hurt. And you'll see little bits of frustration here, like hitting under the belt on the clinch. Now you can see I clocked onto this because this one hurts. He hit me in the bladder here, and it's a shot that can sap your energy. I just made sure that the ref knew what was going on, and I gave him a little grin. Firstly, just to acknowledge that I knew what he'd done, and secondly, because I knew that frustration was kicking in because what I was doing was working. In these instances, it's just keeping your head. You have to remain disciplined and stick to your game plan. This is professional boxing, and at times it isn't clean. Sometimes you just have to deal with it. Personally, I always took this as a good sign that the frustration was kicking in because my opponent couldn't work out what I was doing. And here, as the bell rings, I get hit with a shot after the bell that's completely blatant and give him a little push. I'm remembering all this stuff, and I will get him back when I got the chance. And then you head back to the corner. I'm going to skip to the last 2 rounds now, where I've got a lead and Isaacs needs to knock me out to win. So in this area of the fight, fatigue is obviously kicking in because it was extremely intense. Although I have got a lead, I know that he's going to keep pushing it because he's non-stop. Now I was aware that my left hand was swollen, but I didn't realise that I'd fractured my metacarpal at this point in the fight, so I'm still throwing it. But he's keeping his pressure, and although it is a close fight and I am in the lead, I can't afford to give these last 2 rounds away. So whenever he does press me, I fight back and find my escape as soon as I can. Now, although it's subtle and you might not see it, I'd actually use the ropes to use his aggression against him, give me space to land an uppercut as he charged in. Again, you can't stay on the ropes, so I unleash a combination and do a little pivot off the shot that I learned from Jersey Joe Walcott. Sometimes on a spur of a moment, little tricks that you've seen will subconsciously set in and you'll just be able to pull them off. Now again, as I've already said, with the nature of this fight and him being down and needing to knock me out to win, it really just was a case of stamping my authority when I needed to and limiting the damage, getting out. As I say, using little tricks like I've done here, catching him with the uppercut as he comes in. Squeezing his arm, so he's done all that hard work to close the range, but he can't work. Now here's a little instance in this round where you make a mistake and instantly adjust so you don't make it twice in a row. Isaac cleverly goads me into his counter right hand and instantly follows it up with another one. But there I use the shoulder so I don't make the same mistake twice. The pressure is intensifying now and I'm still using my shoulder and a little bit of foot movement and upper body movement to get out of range. But as his work increases and improves, I find myself where I don't want to be in the corner and get caught. Trading again with him here is a bad idea because he lands clean because he's got the momentum and I'm on the back foot. So I adjust, tie up and kill the action. Now because I got the space, I'm going to retreat and try and find some space. But he's very clever with how he cuts me off and uses little shots rather than big shots. These don't do any damage, but they put me on the rope so he can throw his big shots. Here, I've got no other option than to fight back, otherwise he'll overpower me. My barrage has served his purpose, and now I don't need to be there and make that same mistake, so I'm going to go and move again. Side to side movement, I try not to get pinned on the ropes. Keeping him on my jab, using upper body movement and shoulder rolls to make him miss, and then when he gets in that dangerous range, tying him up. You notice in this instance when the round's coming to its end and I'm against the corner. The action breaks and I'm in a vulnerable position here, so as soon as I see the escape, I use all that space. Then the round comes to its end, and as I'm in the corner preparing for the last round, I'm just being told don't do anything silly. At this point, it had been a pretty brutal fight. Both of us had multiple cuts, my hand was broken, but I was ahead by a comfortable enough margin to win on points. He had to stop me to win, and I knew that coming out. You touch gloves to show your respect, but I knew he was going to come out swinging, and that's exactly what he did. He come out like a ball in a china shop and just went for me. Now in this instance, it was just to stay calm. I knew these attacks were being thrown with desperation because they needed to be done. So you can see here, initially I'm counter punching, but after a little while, I thought to myself, I'm just going to soak all of these up, sit on the ropes and block them. So although these shots look like they're doing damage, they're all being partially blocked. But I got to show I'm still the boss in there, so I come back with a 20-piece combination, and unfortunately, I miss every single one. But basically, it just sends a message that I'm not going anywhere and I'm still in control. And I finally get my opportunity for a bit of payback and hit him on the clinch with a clean uppercut. Now you can see after this is thrown, he acknowledges and knows what I've done. There's no real hard feelings there. It's just a case of, well, if you're going to do it to me, I'm going to do it right back to you. I was also probably a little bit frustrated at the fact that my 20-piece combination had missed, because there's no doubt it would have looked good on my highlight reel. Now anyways, after the handbags, we get right back to it, and I've got some momentum here, so I'm going to press him back. The last thing I want is for him to take control in this last round, and I feel pretty good. I had a lot going for me here as I had him against the ropes and I was landing body shots, but his mouth guard came out and killed the action. I don't know if it was an accident or a good trick on his behalf, but he got him a rest. As soon as the action resumes, I'm going to go on my back foot now. I've got no need to stamp my authority. I'm probably already winning this round because I had the cleaner work, and it's just a case of boxing smart, on my toes, using my jab, moving and tying him up whenever he gets close to kill the action. And I got another cheeky attempt to hit him on the break, but I think nah, once is enough, and I don't want to lose any unnecessary points, so I just go back on my toes and move. But I honestly cannot stress how tough, strong and relentless Isaacs was. There's a reason this was voted as one of the best fights of the year, and it's mainly because he wouldn't stop marching forward. And in the last round, he never stopped, and it was probably the most brutal and exciting of the fight. Now, I just couldn't keep him off me without working, so I was constantly digging his body throughout the entirety of the fight. And when he was up close, I would always make sure I worked and moved straight after. But as I say, he just wouldn't stop coming forward. So I just decided that I would fight him off when I had to, keep myself defensively sound as much as I could, and get out of range. But he was closing the range pretty well now, and I couldn't really have much other option than to fight him off. And here, he catches me with some really clean shots. Both of us are doing good work here, and with hindsight, I probably should have been on the move. But in the moment, it was so intense and I couldn't keep him off me, so I had no other option to fight in my head. Now I've tied him up, pushed him back, and now I'm going to stamp my authority one last time before I go for my final walk, but he catches me again. Now I know the fight's roughly coming towards its final minute, but I land this clean body shot which evidently hurts him. I have a feeling this is going to be my final attack, so instead of targeting the head, I start digging down to his body with a little more accuracy. Now again, I cannot credit his toughness enough. These body shots were landing clean and they were energy sappers. How he stayed on his feet, taking those body shots, it's just a testament to Isaac's toughness. So now, as a fighter, being so deep into the final round, you know it's coming to its end. I'm taking no more risks. I know I should be victorious. And for one last time, I clinch just to kill the last 10 to 15 seconds. I know I'll get that distance and I'll be able to move and stay out of danger. As I'm on my toes, I'm awaiting the final bell, and as it comes, it's one of relief. Now, there's no feeling like the one at the final bell. You've been working for months with this person on your mind, dealing with the fear, the nerves, the stress and the sacrifice. Once it's over, you have so much respect for that other person, and you're so relieved it's done. In this instance here in particular, this was the first fight back where crowds were allowed after COVID. I've been out due to the COVID-19 pandemic for 2 years, and I just enjoyed a brutal fight, so I was pretty emotional after this one and pretty happy with the result. Now the first thing you got to do is go over to the doctor and she'll check you and ask you some simple questions. And the MC will announce the decision. Now I was pretty certain I had this one, but in boxing you never know. There were fights that I won before that I got robbed for in the amateurs, so I was a little bit apprehensive but also confident. As they announced the scores, it was fairly close and I held my breath. But when they announced me the winner, I was buzzing, and I got to admit I was pretty emotional with this one, with all the things that had happened in the 2 years prior. Then you go straight over to Isaacs just to make sure he's alright. I got so much respect for this guy. He was so tough, and I have respect for everyone I fought. But this fight in particular was so brutal, and it was down to him being so tough. Straight after the fight was finished, both of us had to go and see the doctor and get our cuts stitched up and get seen to. It's funny how calm two guys that have just absolutely beat each other up could be sitting next to each other when they're getting their stitches done. This is the less glamorous side of boxing that you don't see. But anyway, my friend Luke offered to drop me home and then I just went to sleep. I celebrated the next day with my girlfriend, but I still had to deal with the injuries for months and weeks after. And that was my experience in the ring on fight night. Hopefully you found this video interesting and it gave you a little bit of a perspective if you've never been in the ring or you're just starting off boxing. If you like the content, please make sure to subscribe, like, share, drop a comment and give me any suggestions on what you want to see in the future.